So you see this picture. Can you somehow imagine, or have you seen this picture actually? So this is a picture. There are 16 warriors, and these 16 warriors represent 16 Turkish empires in the history, so-called empires. And we have President Erdogan, and then Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas during a visit. This is a very interesting, I think. It's a perfect segue, perhaps, into my speech. Can we have the second one? The second one? Okay. So. Can you have the second one? Okay. So, this is some information about the picture, and the meeting took place in the new presidential palace in Turkey, and this has 1,150 rooms and was built at a cost of around 380 million euro. It's very interesting. So this is my contribution, or my talk is structured as follows. And I would like to, it takes perhaps 40 minutes. So, yeah. The Ottoman Empire existed for over 6 centuries and was both a land-based and maritime empire, at times ruling indirectly through indigenous elites, and at times sending out settlers to colonize new areas. The Ottoman ruled over an ethnically and religiously diverse population in the Balkans, Asia Minor, Iraq, Syria, and Arab Peninsula, and northern Africa. It was one of the most religiously and ethnically diverse empires in Europe and Asia. Empires are big macro-historical structures by nature. Talking about empires necessarily involves talking about and thinking through big structures, large processes, and huge comparisons, to paraphrase the late Charles Tilly. The question then becomes as to how examine such structures without getting trapped into anachronistic approaches and projecting the present onto the past according to the imperatives of the current political agenda. I firmly believe that a genuine scholarship on hugely controversial topics like empires and their legacy can be advanced only by adopting a critical approach towards ideological undertakings to colonize history for the sake of nationalistic and imperial political objectives. That said, I think history is probably the most politically relevant discipline among social sciences. As I am not a historian by profession, I will be talking about the political science of the Ottoman Empire, which with focus on Turkey, the Middle East, and Balkans, that is the core regions of the Ottoman rule. My focus on the effects of the Ottoman Empire and how these are reflected in the academic discourse and historical legacy. My first point is framing historical legacy. A brief explication of the notion of legacy and path dependency and their use in terms of comparative studies, like many other macro-historical entities, empires have an afterlife following their collapse. Let's call that a legacy. The idea is that empires continue to exist in different shapes and forms, affecting the life of societies which have inherited their legacies. The legacy may be real or simply imagined by the actors involved. They can take the form of structural and cultural opportunity for new movements and parties to act as a part of ideology, or can act as a part of ideological baggage of the past. When we are talk about legacy, we assume that there is an outcome in the present which can fully be explained, which cannot fully be explained without reference to some antecedent events in the past. A legacy then refers to outcome to be explained, but does not say anything about the mechanism that links antecedent events with the outcome. Seen from this perspective, a legacy can be characterized as an after effect of an antecedent event cause that no longer operates. As the question of legacy is strongly related to the path dependency and historical comparative analysis, some brief remarks about this issue is in order. Path-dependent approach largely maintains that the quality of choices at some point in time matters for choices at another. It emphasizes how actor choices create institution at political moments, and how this institution in turn shape the subsequent actor behaviors, and how this actor responses in turn culminate in the development of new institutional patterns. It is founded on the belief that crucial choice point may establish certain directions of change and foreclose others in a way that shape the development over a long period of time. A path-dependent approach has to focus on the stages of antecedent conditions, critical junctures, institutional creation, and persistent reactive sequence and regime outcomes. What implies the foregoing for the study of Ottoman Empire? To demonstrate the continued importance of the legacy of Ottoman Empire, let us have a close look at Turkey as successor state of Ottoman Empire. This is my second point, debating Ottoman legacy. The politics of imperial legacy in Turkey. Turkey and Ottoman Empire. Recent years have witnessed a growing academic interest in empires. Some scholars have been even talked about the imperial turn to underlie accelerated attention to the impact of histories of imperialism on metropolitan societies. Accordingly, the imperial turn essentially serves a double purpose. First, to shore up the nation state, and second, to use history according to prerogatives of the present. Can we talk about an imperial turn vis-à-vis the Ottoman Empire? As in the wider debate on the imperial turn in relation to the Ottoman Empire too, we can establish two contradictory trends. On the one hand, there is a critical scholarly interest aiming at emancipating the imperial experience from the distorting prism of ethno-national ideologies by focusing on diversity and plurality. This is the one trend. These scholars are concerned with historiographical and cultural dynamics of imperial rule, periodization, and political transformation, social history, while at the same time opening up new avenues of inquiry about the role of various actors in the empire. But on the other hand, we have a contrary to this trend, we have another trend. There is an increasing political and ideological interest in building on the Ottoman legacy as a point of reference for shaping and reshaping the current politics and policies of Turkey. In the same vein, there is even a militia formation called the Osmanlı Ocakları, the Ottoman hearths, fireplaces, in Turkey, trying to intimidate the opposition to the current regime. One of its branches, Osmanlı Germany, Ottomans on Germany, has been recently banned by the German Federal Ministry of Interior, accused of being an extremist group led by Ankara. So at the first glance, the talk of imperial turn in Turkish politics seems quite justifiable. In what follows, I will try to engage in this debate a bit more by referring to legal, historical, and political arguments drawing from a growing body of literature. Let me start with legal argument. There is striking scholarly debate around the issue of state identity between Ottoman Empire and Turkish Republic, which also sheds some new light on the legacy debate. Scholars have argued that on the whole, Turkey is to be seen as continuing the international legal personality of the Ottoman Empire, emphasizing the fact that in 1923, the name of the country was changed from the Ottoman Empire to the Turkish Republic, would not show evidence that Turkey is a completely new state. This is because changes related to the territory of state, to its government, and even its name doesn't affect its identity. So there is an identity between the Ottoman Empire, according to legal argument, and Turkish Republic. Establishing a state identity between the Ottoman Empire and Turkey has not only legal, but also very profound political implications. As stated by a Turkish legal scholar, continuity operates like a double-edged sword, since continuing state is not only entitled to the predecessor's rights, but also bound by the predecessor's obligation. Think about the Armenian genocide and the implication if we assume that there is a state identity between the Ottoman Empire and Turkish Republic. The Ottoman legacy, the same scholar laconically adds, is a Pandora's box that may unveil all kinds of surprises. Indeed, the Ottoman legacy does not only constitute a part of Turkish history, but also acts as a defining element of contemporary Turkish politics. Think about my first picture. Where the mainstream Turkish politics, the president, the ruling party, and the ruling coalition resort to Ottoman Empire as a point of reference, the mainstream Turkish academic historiography involves in myth-making around the nation and state and justification of policy of respective regime at the helm of power. Let us have a close look at this point. In 1931, for example, the edition of Tarih, a high school textbook, an important source of Kemalist historiography, sets out by underlying that the rise of Ottoman was a result of their ability to bring good government to the people where Byzantine princes has failed. And unique heroism and militarism of Turkish. So I am citing from a book in 1930 in Turkey. The book over and over again highlights the Ottoman government's capacity for state building and administration during the gold age, that is the early Ottoman era. Had Kemalists favored a selective appropriation of the Ottoman legacy by crudely placing the Turkish nation state onto the past, the current government almost unreservedly draws on the legacies of Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman legacy is not only referred in cultural terms for the present government and ruling coalition, but also in terms of political orientation. This is a very, very important point. One marker of this political orientation can be seen in the discourses of NeoOttomanism. Some scholars have traced the origins of the concept back to the late Ottoman era under the rule of the Committee of Union and Progress, otherwise known as Young Turks. In contrast to the cosmopolitan vision of Ottoman society, supported by all non-Turkish communities and Turkish liberal alike, the CUP, following its assumptions to power in 1980, advocated Neo-Ottomanism by placing the Turkish ethnic identity at the center of the nation building and state transformation in the context of a multinational and multi-religious empire. With the coming of the Justice and Development Party, AKP, to power in 2002, the debate around Neo-Ottomanism has grown in importance. Under the AKP rule, the concept has experienced different interpretation and meanings, ranging from multiculturalism in domestic context to Turkey's claim on a unifying Muslim world under Turkish leadership, as it was once under the Ottoman Empire. The rejection of national election result in June 2015 in Turkey, the subsequent collapse of the peace process with the Kurds in the same year, the attempted military coup of 2016, and the establishment of the presidential system in 2017 in Turkey, combined with ongoing Turkish military intervention and occupation in Syria, have brought about a completely new situation. Turkey thus entered in an era that can best be described as NeoOttomanism. I use the term to refer the mindset, practices, and public policy of the young Turks, which not only determined the parameters of the late Ottoman Empire, but also laid the foundation of the early Republican era, that is the period under Mustafa Kemal's rule. Had the AKP version of Neo-Ottomanism in early 2000s still included some elements of multiculturalism, as late as 2015, as late as 2015, a dramatic shift have taken place in internal and external politics of Turkey. Recent years have witnessed an authoritarian turn away from normative elements such as respect of minority rights, dialogue, peaceful accommodation, soft power, zero problems with neighbors. These were the slogans, the slogans during the early years of the AKP. To a profoundly authoritarian politics of ethnic domination at home and hegemonic politics, especially towards the former geographies under the Ottoman Empire, specifically in the Middle East.